Hello, dear viewers. For years, it was always my job to open and close the gate whenever a car came in. Yes. So I thought to myself, there must be an easier way, and I bought myself an automatic sliding gate system. Many people here in Thailand already have this setup where the gates open and close automatically with infrared and remote control. I don't know much about this stuff. I have to follow the instructions. I just want to encourage those who also have no idea about this. This is my first time doing this. I have to feel my way through it, but I want to give you the courage to try it too. The motivation to do it yourself as well. If you've also had to open the gate yourself for years, yes. Dear viewers, you're watching the DIY channel from Florence in Thailand. So I don't just make travel videos, but also, yes, DIY videos here in Thailand showing what you can make yourself. What you just saw is actually a common thing here, that people have large gates here, and ours is not yet electrically operated. And I was determined to do it myself with the motor. I bought this motor here. Actually, I bought it for something else. Those who have seen my villa videos also know that I'm going to build a lift system to raise large screens, like 98-inch screens. Screens that rise up from the floor. And the expensive part is really all the linear guides and the drive system. And I thought to myself, it's actually quite cheap. To just buy a drive like this here, you just go for it. You kill two birds with one stone. On the one hand, it's a drive for the future to power this whole system. And I've got the construction under control to the point that I've taken the data from this drive here so I can use it now as well for our gate. Now let's unpack the whole thing. I had already unpacked it before to see what was inside. Let's take a look. The goal for today is actually to install the thing. And there it comes out already. And the whole thing only costs, I think, 5,300 watts. I'll correct myself, I'll write it down here below. So it was a real bargain. Also with the thought that this will be the future drive. Very important, the instruction manual. If you imagine that, or 3,500 watts of heat, that is the unit. You see that measurement a lot here on the grills or on the gates. Here we have the instruction manual. Everything is nicely written in there. I've got some underground cables here because I thought I'd be installing it back there today. These are the racks. I'll have to see how I attach them. Normally they're welded on here. I need 5 meters of it for the gate, but right now I only have 2 meters. But in this video, that's probably where it will end. I estimate that in about 2 days I'll have the other 3 meters as well, so I should be able to finish it completely. Then something very important for the future. We have the remote controls here with a security feature. Does anyone know how to clone something like this? I'd like to have a few more of these since we have several vehicles. And then of course it's just easier. And then we also have various covers, dowels, and also a key in case the power goes out. That's something that happens in Thailand, as we know, so we'll be prepared. And here we also have the magnetic switches. There will be a read contact somewhere here. So this is a read contact. When the magnet passes by, meaning the gate, and then they come together, a contact is closed. And this signal then goes to the motor and shuts the motor off, for example. So here we now have all 4 dowels. Then here we also have a base plate like this. And this will also be fastened with dowels. Now I have to adjust myself to that as well. First, I need to figure that out. By carefully looking at the alignment of the grid, I can clearly see exactly where the gear will go. Whether I choose to mount it like this right now, you see that technique used very often. But you must notice that the lower pipe is actually a bit deeper than the others. Let's see if I need to attach it here down below. Of course, I might have to lift it up a bit, I'm not sure. That's the situation most people are faced with. So how do I approach this now? All right, let me show you how the cable management works. The box, the motor has to go somewhere here, and there's already a rack here. I have to carefully attach it right here, and it definitely needs to be securely fastened over there. I will really have to take a moment to see exactly how I am going to do that properly. So as I said, no, lowering it doesn't help either. I'll have to see if I can align them here now. Then a conduit will go into the floor here. That will run all the way to the back there, to the left for the conduits. And then I want to cut open the floor here. Here, that's where the yellow pipe goes in for the electrical. And then I was thinking, can I run it up the column here? Up to here, where there's a hole, because on the other side there's an outlet. There's also power there, so I've got these two together for now. Now I have to see how I manage with the height. Honestly, that really doesn't look bad at all. And because of that, it effectively means I can safely lower the entire storage rack down a bit further than I originally planned. I can weld it on here. The whole thing needs to go back a bit because there are still screws there. From the rollers, so a bit further back. Now let's carefully open up this heavy gate right here and see if we can finally find a way to get past that obstacle. We've already got an edge in the way here. The screws that are there are way too long. They don't need to be that long. I can just cut those off with the angle grinder. Let's take a look at that too. Where does the wiring come from? It comes from below. So here you can have the wiring come up. So this plate is supposed to go underneath there. How do I get the wiring there? I was thinking of laying the yellow conduit, the empty conduit in here now. Which is important, that it is aligned parallel, so that the gear or the rack aren't put under too much strain on the flanks. Otherwise, you'll get unnecessary and excessive wear. This way, we've marked it for when we remove everything. Now we have the positions here. Yes, then we can recess it completely. If you don't have a foundation at this spot, remember that the force needed to open the gate out from this direction. So the foundation in this direction, I think it needs to be that size. Otherwise, over time, it will start to loosen and wobble. All right, holes have been drilled. Now we'll go and get the others. A hammer, then we'll tap them in. The plate goes on top of that. And then we'll tighten it up already. So I'm going to tack this on now, but then I'll put the camera away because I'm worried it might affect the optics somehow with the flash. So once I've tacked it on here, and I'm now on the sprocket, on the gear, then I'll move it over, and the rack will automatically adjust itself to the correct height. And I'll continue doing it like that, step by step. Then it'll be really 100% accurate. You don't even need a spirit level for that, as I've always heard. So now we're going to start by welding here. I've already welded it on one side. And I see that right now. The metal rack is slowly rising high above the rectangular profile tube. Now I need to see what I can put in between. I need to create a connection here now. I've got a few nuts here. Maybe I can use them. To put in between. Yeah, that could work. That could work. So I just put the nut in between. Of course, you have to keep the same distance here as well. Okay? As you can see, it's working great. I think I might just need to carefully move the whole entire thing over a little bit, specifically the motor. Otherwise, it's great. So now let's take it a step further. Now we're going to the halfway point here. And once we have reached the very end, we will tie the wire back onto it again. There we go. And then we'll align this here. Now we'll move it up. So now it's flush here. Yeah, we still need to put a little something underneath here. Now it's flush up here. I'll try to tack the nut on there. So. Let's move the camera away again. Well, dear DIY friends, it's going pretty well. I've also welded together the connecting pieces, and it runs perfectly smoothly. You don't notice any resistance. Now I just have to wait until the next 3 meters arrive, but you'll see that in the video. That'll be coming in the next few days. So that's it for now. Now comes the unpleasant work, breaking everything up here, and most of all, cutting the concrete back there to lay the empty conduit for the electrical wiring. We'll see. It's all a matter of motivation. At the moment, I'm a bit idle, not really in the mood for it. Now, with all the dirt and noise, we'll see how it goes. Earlier, I said I'd make a hole here. Right, here at this height. Here's the outlet, so I'll start with that. Then I'll know how to get down here. And then I'll cut open the floor here. So then we'll go straight through here. And I hope there's no reinforcement in the middle, just around the edges. Then we can draw power from here. As expected, a piece has broken off here too. I already thought that would happen. But my idea was also that I wanted to run this cable conduit or this little tube all the way through here to bring it in closer. And then you can see the tube, or rather you can paint over it with the same formula. And now the pipe goes down. Now it's time to cut open the channel. Dear viewers, yesterday I welded on the other piece. Everything went great, but I also cut the groove into the concrete here and used the jackhammer to get everything out. That was quite something for me. It was 32 degrees. What am I doing today? That's different every time. Maybe you don't even need that. I have to get the power from the socket. What I did this morning was finish the empty conduits. So in the channel, I fitted the conduits, yellow of course for electricity, and now I've taken the connectors apart again and pulled the cable through. I'll lay it on provisionally for now, and then I'll glue everything together here again. I have 2 grounding cables here, but I love it when everything that's in the ground is waterproof. That means no water should get into the connectors here either. Furthermore, and quite importantly, I am fairly confident in assuming that today we will finally be able to successfully establish the electrical connections to our little motor so that we can all enjoy a truly rewarding and significant sense of personal achievement. What else am I going to do here? Here I would also install a switch so that in an emergency you can cut the power to everything here. If someone somehow gets stuck in the gate, at least you can turn off the power here. But I don't have it at the moment, so for now I'll just run the cable in here like this and then we'll go down here. Here I thought I'd just leave the pipe as it is, 2 to 3 centimeters above the ground, so that water can flow underneath. Otherwise it would be a blockage. I'll put a bit of concrete underneath here and then it'll be stable. And right here I had planned a loop going downward. Like this. And here is where I'll feed in the cable. No water can flow in here either. So that's safe enough. So now we'll let it dry and have some coffee. It's hot enough. We've got over 30 degrees here. Hello, dear DIY friends. 2 days have passed now. As you can see, I've already welded the lower bar on here as well. The 3 pieces have arrived and the electrical connections are done. The limit switch is already installed too. You need to pay attention to the limit switches. There's a magnet inside. How it looks with remote controls, whether you can buy additional ones, and how to calibrate them. Because I can imagine there are different frequencies needed so that not all the gates in the neighborhood open at once. Thank you for watching. See you next time. So that it doesn't rain in. A small dam around it so it doesn't end up underwater. During the rainy season, and the cable back here is a ground wire. It goes over there, and then I'll show you what else I did here. So I also installed an emergency switch here. You can flip it and then the whole thing is without power in case something happens with the gate, like someone getting trapped. Because I noticed it's actually pretty powerful. At least you can turn off the motor here. So I'm going to fit this in here now. I still need to close this up. I've connected it to the outlet back here. This will go on top as well, and then it'll be closed up again. This is the corresponding remote control. You see, it opens up wonderfully. I'm going to spray the whole thing black now, a bit of rust protection on top as well. And then I'll grease it up with some fat. All right, closed. And you can also stop it here, in between. So, and if you try to hold it in place now, you're out of luck. This thing is really, really strong. That's also why you left some space, so at least your fingers won't get pinched. I also left a gap down there, but up there it still needs to be secure up there so that no one can push it open. As you saw, it's not rocket science, you just have to tackle it step by step. What was it again? You have to find the right position for the motor, then attach the rack, of course set up the electrical supply, and then you have an electric sliding gate here now. Stop. Wonderful. Now no one has to get out of the car in the rain anymore. Now everything works automatically, so if anyone knows how it works with the remote controls, whether you can buy additional ones and how to program them, because I can imagine there are different frequencies needed so that not all the gates in the neighborhood open at once. So thank you, glad you watched. We'll see each other next time, and that will be a barbecue grill. Okay, bye.